Okay.
Hi, y'all. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Todd Cooper. I think I've been in the job 6 weeks, but I'm the new manager of the Gateway independent student publication on campus. Andrew and Stephen will get up and present a minute. So I just wanted to thank you guys for what you're doing here. I know it's a difficult job. My background, I'm a journalist of 30 years. I was at the World Herald for 27 years. And I love being in this position now, where I can be a manager and a mentor to future journalists, a industry that's under siege right now. But I'm so heartened by the about 10 journalists that I've met who want to go into this. And Stephen and Andrew are 2 of the 10. And the reason I took this job is because of them, their fortitude and resilience in wanting to go into this industry. As many of you may already know, they're coming off an extremely challenging year. Last year, they dealt with a slash budget, a corrupted website, an absentee manager. You can see why I might have been a little hesitant to take the job, but I truly would not have taken this job if I wasn't incredibly impressed with their fortitude, their talent, their curiosity. They're ambitious and thoughtful and conscientious. They care about this campus. And one of the few ways that we can still have community in this world is through fact-based journalism, through covering events, connecting the campus together. Our letter in the SABC folder kind of lays out our coverage plans. Andrew and Stephen will take you through the details of the budget that will help us get there. I'm always available at the Gateway to take any questions or concerns or suggestions you have. In short, we have a ton of momentum right now coming off a difficult year. Soon we will have a new website. We have new management. We have a new newsroom that will provide a ton of collaborations across campus. And I've challenged these students to hustle and to live up to one grand goal: connect this campus by telling the stories that reveal the character and the characters of UNO. So thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Nate Ostick. I'm the student body or student government vice president. I'd just like to kind of provide some additional info on the MapRide program, just because of time constraints and stuff later in the night. It's something that I worked really hard on alongside some other senators and student government to kind of expand that. This year, the line item has expanded substantially, but it's also because services are expanding substantially. We're working to get a bike expansion, and that's part of what this is. It's a partnership with Harlem Bike Share, or ROAM, as they're called, to basically subsidize passes for UNO students to get an unlimited number of $5 annual passes for students. So for a student, it costs $5 to get a pass. The details of that are that it's $100,000 paid over 3 years, so it's about $33,000 a year. That line item is being taken by partnership of a couple of different groups on campus. Student government's paying about $18,000 of that, and then housing and Division of Student Life and Wellbeing are contributing another $15,000. So it kind of represents a multitude of stakeholders in that. This kind of program was based off of a pilot that we did last year, where we distributed 200 passes for free to students. That costed $15,000, which is paid through student government reserves. Those passes went within a week. They were all distributed and claimed within that period of time. So we saw it fit to expand to a model that would be able to accommodate unlimited demand, which we see as likely being a kind of head thing. A big plan next year, should this program be approved, is really a marketing plan to actually distribute these to students. We're kind of using the example of MAPRO, how they do the reduced VATLAS passes. And that sort of cost where it's a model where you're saying, hey, here's this thing that's normally quite expensive. A student voucher pass is normally $100. We'd be able to say, hey, this is 95% off. And we feel it's a good incentive to be able to kind of get people incentivized to start using this program. I have more details and stuff if you're interested, that I can send about usership numbers that changed over the previous pilot. But bottom line is usership doubled from that as far as the bikes go, which we see as a big win because it's both transportation for students and recreation and health. I mean, it's all these things, especially for students who don't have access to reliable transportation. And then finally, on the other side of things, the other half of the MAVRIDE item, there was a $4,000 increase on that. And this is for the Metro partnership, which is already existing. The Metro MAVRIDE program allows you to just use your MAV card, like either showing your MAV card on the Orbit bus or swiping it on Metro buses to ride for free. Student government's been kind of funding that program since I think 2015 or so. It's undergone multiple contract renegotiations. And it is a partnership between student government and parking services. And over the years, the cost burden has gradually shifted heavier and heavier towards parking services. And so this year they'd asked us if we would contribute more because the prices are just increasing on that front. And so we saw increasing $4,000 because that matches the increase that parking services has been doing year on year. So we decided to take our turn on that increase. If you have any questions, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them now or later, just on these programs. Thank you.
Anyone else here for open forum?
I'm sorry, I'm on Zoom. Is someone in person to talk on the open forum? Or I can now?
Yeah.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay? I'm a little sick, so it might sound bad.
Yes, give me 1 second. Can all the commissioners hear? Leah? Yes? Okay, go for it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Moore, and I am a senator for CBA, as well as someone who works closely with ISS and international programs. So I would like to dedicate my open forum for ISS, who might not be the most visible agency on campus, not for everyone at least, but for the international students, the international staff, and international programs. It is an agency that we know and that we love. And it's a beautiful thing to have ISS at a time where being a global citizen is more necessary than ever. Not only do I, my friends, and loved ones love ISS, but we need ISS. I urge you all to think as a global citizen when examining ISS's budget, not only because it's what is necessary, but international students come at such a disadvantage, usually with lower levels of English, without their families, and without the comfort of so many things that we are all privileged to have immediately around us. Events like the International Banquet are a lot of reasons why international students can find their own and other communities to share the joy of being multicultural with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here for open forum? Secretary Emke, how much time do we have left on open forum? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Biggenhagen.
I move to close open forum.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fair, please wait to be recognized. Commissioner Fair seconding that. We will now move into a period of discussion. Seeing no discussion, we'll move into a period of voting. Please raise your placard if you would like to end open forum. Please raise your placard. So in the opinion of the chair, the motion is carried. Okay. Moving on, we will start with presentations. If I could have any representatives from the Gateway come on up.
That's fine. Yeah. Over here. Yes. You got it. I'm sorry. All right, we ready? Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Andrew, and this is,
My name is Stephen Pura. I'm the adjutant.
yes, I'm the editor-in-chief of the Gateway. We're here to present our budget tonight. We organized our PowerPoint just by line item, try to keep it lean, simple, concise, kind of following how we tried to keep our budget this year. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so that starts at the top with publishing and printing. So this is a big part of the paper. We've really been working back towards having more physical copies of the Gateway for people to hold. It's a great compilation of work for our journalists that are serving on the staff. It also works as a, it's really something that people can distribute. You can show it to your friends. And currently our website is in the process of coming back up. We'll get to that later. But having this paper, it allows us to really reach out to our students. It allows us to reach out to advertisers. We're asking significantly lower than we have in the past. We asked 12,000 last year and we're granted 8,000. We're asking for 6,500 this year. Part of that is because we are trying to get back to a place where our paper is primarily, or at least 50-50 funded by advertising revenue and also funding from student fees. On our first issue this year, it was 61% funded by advertising. We are working to keep that momentum going. Stephen has been working with kind of an array of advertisers, working towards the possibility of even increasing that and giving our take your ass down. But we are looking to be publishing monthly going forwards during the school year. Whereas last year we were asking to publish quarterly, which in my opinion, that's too much time between issues. It loses relevance and we want to be enhanced monthly. We want to have a set time for people to have their paper. It gives us a chance to work on layout and design. And we also are hoping to set up and distribute papers. We got about roughly 200 distributed in Milo Vale alone. We set up a table on Valentine's Day. That's when our last issue came out. We were able to distribute it there. We got lots of good news in there. Housing, and we got some good culture stuff, opinion stories. But yeah, that's pretty much it for printing at the moment. Yes, Stephen? Yes, take it away.
With publication, there's a couple of things that come with that. Like you said, we put out 200 in rotation, which gives us a little bit of validity with our news. Students are seeing this and it's building the community that we engage upon in campus every day. Students are seeing papers and they're recognizing their friends in it and they're getting conversations started. So this ask is one, to have that conversation keep rolling. Again, momentum is a big thing for us right now. During open forum, to explain that we're coming back from ashes essentially. So this ask is to rebuild what we once were and to have in the future is to establish this plan.
Cool. Let's get rolling. All right, so we are not asking for anything in the conference line item. We haven't really gone on conferences in recent years. Might be good someday, but we don't have any plans. We're trying to keep it lean. All right, communication. This one's pretty basic as well. We have a landline phone. It's in our manager's office. We use it for advertising calls. It's a number that we can put in the paper for people to reach out to us at. We have put personal phone numbers in the paper before. It's not great. So this is pretty much, the bill's like $650, $660, I think covers the change there. So that's about it for that. Dues, fees, and subscriptions. This is traditionally for our website. So we are, as we said, as Todd mentioned, our website was kind of in shambles last year. That was a number of things. It's an old platform. Our provider wasn't really helping us out there. We are switching over. We actually initiated it in October. I started working with Blocks as the new company. They host all kinds of news websites, the Daily Nebraskan, all the Lee Enterprises properties such as like the Omaha World Herald, Journal Star, 70 others. They are giving us a really good deal on their platform. These companies pay thousands of dollars. We pay $250 a month. That's up from $150 with Flywheel, which is in my opinion, is kind of janky. And we are really looking to get this up within the next couple weeks. We've been having meetings constantly with them, moving stuff over. This is just a rough screenshot of what we're working on. But it will cost roughly $3,900 yearly for blocks, $245 a month, and then we are rolling into a newsletter system. We had paid for MailChimp in previous years. They didn't really get it going. I don't know what was with that, but it was a separate deal from our website. It would be something that we didn't necessarily have the staff to work on. With this, it'll package stories up. It'll send them to all the contacts we have on our email list. We can do like weekly best of. We can send it out to alumni. We can cater in different ways with that and get the reach out there. So about $3,900 yearly, and then we pay a few bucks a month for GoDaddy domain. So 4,000 is the ask in that category, up from 3,000 that we were granted last year.
One of the largest things with this website is to understand that there's legitimacy in this website. Like Andrew stated, there are other companies out there professionally, like the Omaha Herald, that use sites like blogs. So one of the good things with us in the journalistic output is that we're preparing professionals. People are coming to us, they're learning the systems with blogs, and they're able to progress into a professional world where we are providing a service that is no longer seen anywhere on campus. Some of the journalistic stuff that you're learning in classes isn't going to necessarily translate, but with us, we're professional experience. The website is very important for that. It's the way of the future. I love reading the paper, but also I have a phone every single day. So people are going to be seeing this constantly. Blocks and having an effective website, that's something important. It's such a one to stress.
Their sites are good too. Ours kind of in the past has not been the most mobile friendly. It's slow. This situation going forward, it's going to be a lot better for not a ton more. So yeah. All right, operations and maintenance. We don't have anything specific that we need to operate or maintain. If we do need to pull funds, that is a possibility from other areas, but we don't have any specific plans for use of this line item, so we kept it at 0 for now. Office supplies, pretty simple. We, as Todd mentioned, and Steven did too, we are working on moving stuff into Ash right now. And in the past years, we were kind of learning how to use our office space better with our staff, but we basically just need this to buy pens, pencils, notebooks, the basics, dry erase markers, all that fun stuff. I kind of looked into things, and like we can get toner provided through Canon. That won't ding us here, so we tried to keep it low. I believe we got 300 last year. We're just asking 150 for these basics right now. All right, postage. We're asking 130 here, so this is going to cover any mailroom fees. We have a lot of places send us stuff. We have a lot of other college newspapers mail us their issues. We have a lot of advertising partners reach out to us with stuff along those lines. And then we also do want to get in the habit of sending papers out to alumni if we're seeking donors, or advertisers also, they want to see physical hard copies of the paper. They want to be able to look at it, see where they can smack their ad. That's something that is really part of our goal to get back towards a higher level of profitability there. Steven, did you have anything to add?
Like you stated, it's important that these advertisers are seeing the work that we're putting out, especially after the issues that which they advertise inside of. And this line item simply covers them. Getting these papers to these people, it's important, but also it can lead to a better relationship in general, just with advertisers on a local and international basis.
Cool. Yes. All right, moving water. This one, we are asking for the same that we asked for last year. We are granted less than this, but we are hoping, I mean, this is part of the COVID comeback per se, but we do want to host more in-person events. We want to bring people into our office. We want to have open house type deals. We want people to come in. Everyone knows that food gets people places. We all love when food is provided at events. A lot of other organizations are going to say that's why they bring people in. One one of the ways we hope to provide for people. But we want to provide for those events. Publications committee meetings, there's typically food provided. That's when the members of the like student publications committee that's elected through SGA is with the professional board, and they meet at least quarterly. More so than that, we've been having a lot of meetings recently, but basically just to be able to bring people in and then be able to have the money there if we want to host events, if we want to buy candy and pop up in Milo Vale for distribution day. That's the kind of stuff. We bought some candy for our Valentine's Day one. We had candy hearts. Everyone was stopping by for candy hearts, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Did you? Yeah, no, cool. All right, equipment and software. This one's at 3,000. So a lot of this is investment for future profitability, as I said there. But we want to be able to get the equipment that we need to get into kind of some new markets that we've been testing the waters over. Like this past semester, we tried starting with podcast type deals. We are looking to get more into podcasting, new media stuff. I mean, it's where we're gonna have to be going. It's what people want. It's accessible. We don't have like any podcasting equipment of our own for some of these things. We used student equipment that was provided. We want to make sure we have that continuity going forwards. We want people to be able to come in, have podcasting mics set up so we can record in a professional setting. We can show that to advertisers. Stephen, we've reached out to multiple advertisers we had reached out to for print editions, hit back with, hey, if you have any podcasts coming up, we'd love to sponsor that. This is a part of us trying to be set up going forwards. So we can use this stuff, we can take this investment now, we can use this investment to get profitable in the future. Hopefully in the future, we can ask for less from student fees. As we all know, we are trying to keep those relatively low. But yeah, there are definitely promises to do that. Next one. Just a little bit more here. So we are looking to get podcasting equipment. We also don't really have much when it comes to like cameras to give students for stuff. Most of that's been like staff members have been using their own gear for that. So we are looking to purchase like one basic Canon camera and a couple lenses. We don't really have anything that works well for sports right now. So we'd like to be able to provide that to staffers, and it just enables more people to be using more things, covering more stories at a time. We really want to kind of double down on quality, well, not quality, quantity going forward. It's all the above, but.
One of the largest things with this ask is that we are providing a new level of accessibility with this. So going into an audio format is something that isn't really provided on UNO campus in a DEI aspect. In a sense of belonging, there's a lot of students on campus that are disabled, audibly impaired, visually impaired. They need other sources of news info besides reading. Some people can't read for long times or they get strained eyes. So providing this podcast, one, it is a new avenue for us. It's a new avenue for UNO in general. We don't have a lot of avenues for this with podcasting, but it provides a sense of belonging to those students. It gets them in the conversation, but also able to be a part of something that is bigger, which builds the community in general. One of the largest things with news outlets such as ourselves is that we build the community system. We analyze the things that are happening on campus. And with this audio format, it's an important way for people to digest that, especially, I mean, Gen Z and TikTok, it's in our brains. Trying to pay attention to a story, if that's 1,000 words, can be rough for some people. So this is just a new avenue for us.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so travel. That point there was a little bold on our part, but we need to travel. We are supposed to be covering these events. We're supposed to be going to athletics events. Last year we got cut down to 0 here. Students, coaches, athletes, they really appreciate when we show up to these events. Back home, everyone gets to see kind of what's going on. I think we've done a decent job of that. We've been thanked by athletes and coaches. This current year, we had to pull all of our funding for travel out of other sources. It was around, we had to pull around $700 over the course of 2 months for 3 separate trips. That was sending 4 people to Kansas, that was on a bus, that was 2 of us going to Missouri, North Dakota. We were there when we were there during the NCAA volleyball tournament in Kansas. Incredible season there. We were there for the first appearance as well of the soccer team in the NCAA tournament in Missouri. Wonderful experiences, but everyone really appreciates it when we're there for those things. It gives people the experiences that they often want to get elsewhere. We're not asking for anything for conferences. I mean, we travel and we do stuff with it. Like we travel and it's for a reason. I really think that $1,500 would be at least the minimum that would be able to get us through multiple trips to make sure we cover what needs covered.
To go along with the momentum of us, I think we can all feel it. UNO has been really moving in a forward direction with sports and also on campus in general. You're seeing more faces on campus, you're seeing bigger things, bigger events pop up. I know some larger events like MAPRO, it has a concert coming back. These things are happening and we need this allocation to be able to cover the momentum, not only that we're achieving, but UNO is achieving as well. We're getting to bigger places, so we have to have at least stay in step with UNO.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, back one. Thank you. All right, staff wages. This was a point last year that did not go so well. But we ask a lot of our staff members. We ask way too much of their time to let them go unpaid. They would not be able to do it, frankly, without any financial support. We're not paying people much. It's minimum wage. Most staffers are at 10 hours a week. This is for them to cover a few stories every week consistently. It's something that really you don't get quality journalism. We can do more. We can cover more stories when we have more people engaged, when people have the ability to go to these stories. A lot of stuff is driving around, gas money spent. No one's making much money doing this. It's really, a lot of it is passion, but we need this to be able to cover what everyone wants to have covered. Otherwise, I mean, we're a paper that's in really no shape to support like our campus of thousands and thousands of students. We really want to be able to have people there as well to work on driving profitability. We want people to be here to work with advertisers. A lot of this is stuff that you just can't really do for free. We ask a lot of people's time. This would allow us to be able to pay the people we currently are. It's not like over this past year, like we've tried to provide all the stories that we can. I think we've done a decent job of more student outreach to organizations, social media presence. We have been paying people out of reserves and other areas. We just can't keep doing that. And then there won't be really a paper that's consistent. We're doing the best with what we can. It's $35,000 for like seven or eight staff members. It's that's what we ask. And then next one, please. A little bit more. So it would cover editors and staff writers. And then, yeah, basically this is kind of just what I said. We really want to provide the stories for people. It's when you boil it down, I think it works out to around $9 of student fees would be portioned out to the Gateway. Please correct me if I'm wrong when we look at these budgets, but I believe it'd be about $9 for a whole year. I think that's a relatively low ask for quality student journalism to be provided. It's really just that momentum. Again, we are working to be the best we can. We are all very passionate people. We enjoy what we do, but it does require initial investment here, especially if we do want to get to a point where we're paying for more of this out of our own pocket through advertising revenue. We're not going to have the people to get there if we don't have it. Steven?
So with that, we do, obviously we have passionate people. We have about 16 other passionate people that are unable to be paid right now. We just don't have money allocation for that. It's something that there's a large and growing interest that people want to work in this paper strictly out of passion.
Yeah.
So
All right, so let's move on here. Student management. So this is for myself and Steven here. We work more than 10 hours a week. I probably work more than 20 hours a week, but I shouldn't say that. So this is at 20 hours a week and then 15 hours a week respectively, for the editor and the ad manager. 10 seconds, cool. I work on all the editorial content, a lot of the, budgeting for stories. Steven seeks out advertising. Yeah, and we prepared this with the, minimum wage fund. That was kind of perfect.
Okay, so we will move on to a segment of Q&A for the Gateway. Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Bugenhagen.
Yeah, thank you guys for the presentation and congratulations on the latest issue. I've seen it distributed all over the place, so very well done there. I have a question about the equipment. What are we looking at in terms of expenses this year or this upcoming year for equipment? I know you guys said you were looking at buying a used Canon. Are there any other brands that you're looking at? Any other specific types of equipment? Do you have any estimates on cost there, or are we just looking at general?
Yeah, so I kind of put together a shopping list of sorts. But we have primarily been looking at like a Canon camera because we already have a couple older Canon cameras as well, and you can swap lenses around. We've been looking at like a used Canon 80D and then a longer lens for sports. Unfortunately, that stuff is kind of pricey, and if you want sports photos to turn out under not the greatest lighting at all times at Baxter Arena, you need a fast lens for that. So that can run around $1,000 a camera with like a kit lens around $1,000, and then the podcasting stuff we were thinking would probably cost around 600 or so. We left some room in there if there was any growing pains or anything extra that we realized we needed in the process. But that's kind of the gist of it. Thank you.
Commissioner Robertson.
Have you conducted any, or gave any estimates in potential revenue to be given through the podcasting app? And I know you said you received some potential interest, but curious if you.
So I can take over that. With the return on investment, we have at least 2 sponsors right now. They said that they want to guarantee at least 4 podcast segments, and we've roughly estimated those out to be like $125-ish each. That's just one person. We also have another sponsor that wants to do 2 other sections. Depending on length, that also is another conversation. So the ROI there, it does depend on the length of what they want and also what they ask of us. If Cane's texted me tomorrow and said, hey, if you eat a Cane, you know, and they said, we'll give you $100 to do that, that can be debatable on what that can be, but our average running price for these podcast segments and ad reads are each. For each segment. So there can be 2 segments per episode, one at the beginning, one at the end. There's, it does range, but also that goes again with the momentum that we are gaining. Podcasts are a thing that we've done 2 episodes and we have 2 sponsors already that have reached out to us and said, hey, we see you do podcasts. We want to sponsor these.
One thing there, this is all like a lot of initial stuff as well. We had been working to try to get advertisers, but it had been hard. Steven had been doing a lot of the social media stuff up until our kind of website went down. Honestly, that's alleviated some pressure off of like our small team and myself to work on social media. So Steven has a time to go out and do work on these advertising contracts. When it comes back up again, we have a new plan for that, but this has really been something we've tried to work on recently and have already found decent footing in.
Commissioner Baku.
So, looking at your food and water expense request, the allocation that you had for to be about $700 and the remaining is $524. So kind of looking at your request, what kind of differences would you be looking at with, you say you want to host more events, so do you have any events in hand and in mind that you want to host that would need that increase?
Yeah, so honestly, in that, we did not have a manager for a while, and I can say that I've bought food for people, and have not had it reimbursed. We didn't necessarily have like the proper, avenues there to kind of handle some of that, so what we have actually spent out of our own budget, somewhat varies from what I'd say we've actually spent on things in that sense, and we are looking to, we would like to take it out there instead going forwards, through those events, and, I don't think this year we've really been able to tap that yet.
And then specific events would be an open house. We have a new office, Ash 105, it's a lot larger space. Me and Andrew ourselves, we kind of renovated the entire space to be more accommodating to a student, where you can come in and there, you can study and you can use some of the equipment and you can see what officers or what editors are working in the office. And there's an avenue there to have an open house where people can walk in and just be like, hey, I have this idea for a story. Or, hey, I want to meet these people that are writing these stories. We have, this year specifically, have really tried to enforce this idea that the editors need to be known. The staffers need to be known, and they need to be accredited for what they have. So these events, one, get this in-face contact. So like when we did our Valentine's Day distribution, there was a portion of cash that went to candy and stuff like that. That one, it justified us being there, but it also got these people to understand that, oh, we're students just like them. We build this credibility, and that's why that line item is such.
Commissioner Bear.
So my question is on equipment and software. So I see for this current year, 23-24, it looks like you spent about 10,000 on equipment and software. Can you tell me what equipment was bought this year and how that differs from this coming year in this request?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. If we look back at last year, there was some money set aside for equipment and whatnot. Actually, there's money from, I believe, the previous year. So our former advisor had placed an order for laptops to provide to staff members, because all of the machines that we had in Kaiser Hall previously were significantly outdated and people have been using their own stuff. And not every student has a great machine, something that could do like video editing or photo stuff there. So our manager had placed an order for some machines. It was supposed to hit, I believe, on the previous year's amount, and some of it carried over to the current year. If I were placing the order, I would have placed it differently. I would have maybe been a little bit more cost conscious on certain items. But I was not in the decision to, I was not part of that decision there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you.
But we did need new computers.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
I'm a huge fan of the fact that the Gateway is such a good opportunity for students to be working with real life experience. How can people become staff members, like the senior staff or the student managerial positions, and who is picking the paid staff members for the Gateway?
So yeah, that's typically, it's traditionally been that the editor interviews staff members. So everyone that's currently on staff besides Stephen, the publications board interviews the advertising manager. And then I've interviewed candidates for the roles for the editors and senior staff writers. A lot of it has been, some of it has been outreach to classes. Some of it has been through people reaching out to us. We've posted on social media at points in the past when we have been hiring for certain positions, and I've talked to people as well. We also do work with contributors, people who want to submit every now and then. We also, yeah, it's a variety of avenues, I guess. Did that answer your question?
Commissioner Bear.
I had a follow-up question to the equipment. You said that you would have placed those orders a little differently.
Yeah.
Is it you all making those decisions now?
Well, Todd here would be working with us. I would say there was maybe a disconnect in the past with our previous manager in some areas. I was not informed before she went on leave that this order had been placed. I simply got a call from IT that we had some stuff arriving. Yeah, we would be working with Todd. I'm kind of a penny pincher, I would say, like when it comes to stuff, I try to be like very careful, like where I spend my money, and I sometimes cheap out on things.
You can see it in how we're dressed.
I don't know what that means, but like, I wouldn't have ordered a fancy Apple monitor, that Josie ordered that, yeah. Anyways,
Does that answer your question?
does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Bear.
A question on the webpage.
Yeah.
Have you ever approached UNO and seen if you could get it tucked under like UNO Omaha or in that capacity versus being something independent?
So the only concern there is that we are an independent student publication under UNO Student Boards.
Yep.
Instead of the university. There are some concerns there, when it comes to sensitive information. We do use some UNO platforms such as SharePoint for sharing our documents, but say for stuff we want off of that platform, we do keep some stuff locally. There are circumstances where we would want to do it ourselves. And then also if you look at a lot of other student publications, like the other ones, like the Daily Nebraskan in the system, they are very much a separate entity as well. They like I said, they use blocks. And one thing I forgot to mention, they have, over years, they've been able to secure advertising money through that website to the point where they're almost able to pay for that website.
That is the end of the questioning period. Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
I motion to extend the questioning period by 8 minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Bear?
Second.
Okay, now moving into a period of discussion. Seeing no further discussion, we will move into a period of voting. All in favor of, sorry, it's 8 minutes. Okay, in the opinion of the chair, the motion carries.
Do I get to continue this conversation? Okay, cool. So like I was saying, the Daily Nebraskan has seen over years that they've been able to pay for their website almost entirely in advertising revenue from it. This is something we are not sure is gonna work for us at the start. So we are asking for the full amount to cover it going forwards. But I think, when you look at it and you look at kind of our concerns, when we put it under UNO, I don't think they necessarily have a platform that's meant for news content as well. I mean, there's like Bullseye, there's newsletters and UNO News and everything. It's not necessarily a news website, and I don't think they have a platform that we could truly use in that way. It's a good point, but yeah.
To add to that, if I can, there's a sense of having this separate entity that, one, it helps students go to it. No offense to the UNO website, there's a little bit of clunkiness there. One of the large things to focus on we're also a news outlet, so that's with emergency news, breaking news, important things. If you want to look at a real world example, we can look at Lincoln. There was a gunman on campus and they had a separate website that had emergency breaking news that murdered everyone. And that's something that we can do in a separate entity. And that's why it's so important, one, that we essentially have this entity to be able to interact with. Having it under that, it could bog it down, slows down some of that process and cause a little bit of problems and issues, but also we are an independent publication, so we need to stay independent.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bugenhagen.
Have there been any conversations about a partnership with the UNO athletic department? Will be subsidizing some of the travel expenses if you're going to athletic events?
So we have tried to join in with like Spirit and Tradition trips when possible. When we went to Kansas, we took the bus there. We have not reached out to athletics about that. I mean, I have talked to them in the past about like riding on the bus, and at a few points it did seem possible. They've offered us access to events, but that is an avenue that we could definitely look at. And I appreciate the input there. We have tried to save when we can though for those bigger events.
Thanks.
Commissioner Paliscar.
So you're talking about kind of making your budget really conservative this year, especially in the face of like coming under a new management, facing the budget cuts you had last year. Looking at your current budget request, what are the pieces that you feel like are really essential and maybe to take into?
Yeah, so there's several lines that are critical in my opinion, publishing and printing, and then publishing and printing, as well as staff wages, and also the in the exact line item, dues and fees for the website. There are areas where we could probably get by if food and water was lower. Certain ones like that, bills, kind of what it is, unfortunately. But yeah, I'd say that's kind of where.
Definitely, food and water. The biggest one, I'd say. There's not much on the cutting room floor because we kind of cut the floor already.
So, yeah, our budget this year that we're presenting is lower than our 2019-2020 ask. And everyone knows how much more expensive things have gotten since then. And UNO has moved to a hourly instead of salaried payment scale, which we have been told by HR, we cannot do salaried roles. All of them are hourly at this point, which has also driven up the amount that we pay staff members for their.
Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
What would you say of the stories that you've had this year? What are the stories you're most proud of writing, or that you really feel proud about the work that went into them this year?
Yeah, so personally, I kind of enjoyed covering a meeting where it was during the the continuing search for a new president for the system. It was really, I enjoyed being a part of that meeting because I got to hear a lot of different perspectives. I believe Commissioner Hardy may have been there at the UNO meeting.
Oh.
Yeah, but I heard from students, student senators, deans of colleges, just kind of got to hear what they think UNO is, and how they see the campus and what we need. That one was fun for me to experience personally. I've also enjoyed watching like our sports editors cover like the volleyball. Volleyball day was really exciting. That was really sick. That was neat to watch them be able to cover that. We were looking strictly at news. We had a story, we had a number of stories, but we had one on like the WGC's Plan B vending machine. I thought that one was an interesting one as it developed. We've got stories from colleges or students going on trips during J terms. Steve, were there any that really stood out?
The ones that stand out to me, I think that are, in my opinion, really important. Me and Andrew are kind of two sides of the coin, is the ones that are looking critically at UNO. We had a housing story that was a critical examination of someone that felt slighted by the UNO system. And we're a news publication. We are biased. We have to show that, yes, we're UNO's like biggest cheerleader, but we're also their biggest parent when we point the finger at them and say, hey, you can't do that. You have to understand that there's that line there. And I very much enjoyed the critical lenses that we put onto not only UNO, but like the fraternities and sororities that exist within our systems. I mean, to gas myself up, I guess, I did a story over Pike recently that just kind of critically analyzed some of the actions, and not necessarily to bash them, but just we have to critically analyze every system that we have at UNO, and it kind of holds everyone to this accountability. Without a publication like us, you don't really have that. So,
Forgive me if more didn't come to my head. I've read a lot recently.
a lot of reading.
Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
Just as a point of information, as we're looking at this, I do see that there is that shift in the editor-in-chief and ad manager revenue, as well as senior staff, but that one was, so we got more time to hear about that. I know that some of the other positions that are slightly similar in nature, like I'm thinking like some of the agency directors and things like that, they do have that set amount of 6,000, and I know that that's what you were allocated last year. Can you explain better why there's a discrepancy in like how much has been increased, or why it's different from some of those positions? Like, is that a position that is technically like a paid position, or is it, can't think of the word that I'm looking for, but like a stipend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're trying to be as legal as possible here. When you look at the paper, the editor in chief and the advertising manager, we've been working a lot. We work a lot more than 10 hours a week on average. Our publications committee approved last year that they basically said, this isn't gonna work. After SABC, that 10 hours a week is not gonna work for these roles. And they said that for now, we will find the funding to be able to pay the editor 20 hours a week and the ad manager for 15 hours a week. So that's how we've been operating since the fall. Frankly, if we cut it down to 10 hours a week, I don't.
Commissioner Bugenhagen.
I move to extend questioning by 15 minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Commissioner Pauskar. We'll now move into a period of discussion. Yes,
Like 15 minutes long, or
Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
we can always end it early, but it just will take more motions and more time if we have to keep extending it, but we can at any point decide that we've ended discussion.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll move into a period of voting. If you'd like to extend the period by 15 minutes, please use your placard. If you are against increasing the time. Okay, in the opinion of the chair, the motion is carried.
All right, so all I can say is that it would be impossible to do those roles at 10 hours a week. I wish there was, it was salaried as it was previously. It was a stipend of sorts, but we have been told that that is not possible. I would be fine taking like a pay cut if it was a salaried role. But I mean, I am working over 20 hours a week in that position. Steven's working quite a bit as well.
Yeah, the limit in time it's rough, for sure. The salary position, it would just make things way smoother in all aspects, but it's the nature of the beast legality wise.
Just as a point of clarification, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly because I'm not super familiar with the system. It is not like a stipend position that is held by a student. It is specifically a paid position for students.
Yes. Yeah, it's just hourly paid position by students. For students.
That was my misunderstanding. Thank you.
Commissioner Bear.
It's Stephen, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Could you explain your position, like as ad manager, what you're exactly to do, and then kind of like your highlight from this past year?
Gotcha. So as an advertising manager, I secure advertisements and funding for the Gateway, but I also provide advertisements in way of social media, but also to get back to the webpage and me helping, allocate banners and stuff like that. I'm in constant communications with outside companies, whether that be locally or internationally. That is what the role boils down to, but obviously communications take a long time. People don't email back right away. There's, processes in which we have to go through. So there's a lot of back and forth and internal communications that I handle on my end. It's a lot of PR, but so Andrew kind of alluded to this during our presentation, is I have two roles. Advertising manager, social media editor. So social media is the stuff that I overlook, as well as trying to secure advertisements. It was kind of pushed into two things with the changes that came. We need an ad manager for that reason to solely focus on that. Advertising and communications like that, it takes a lot of my time. And with having new social media, and we allocated our resources specifically to focus on social media growth in the beginning, to get under ourselves and rebuild essentially, with getting that momentum and also losing the resource allocation towards the website. Andrew's kind of taken up the social media side, and I've been able to focus solely on advertisements. And in that time, I've secured an advertisement that you can find in the paper now, which is with Amazon. Externally, Amazon Student, we worked with them. They secured 2 full-page ads and they want to do 4 podcasts. So the bigger problem with that is now being the social media editor, I also need to do 4 podcasts. And I also have to do ad management. And I have to also be a full-time student. So
You've been helping with the coverage as well.
and coverage as well, yes. I've been at every sports event for the last weekend and stuff like that. So I'm double dipping on both sides. It can't be that way anymore, especially as we're growing and we're getting momentum and we're getting people on us and people are enjoying what we're seeing. I need to work hard on advertisements and we kind of move into this scenario where we have a website again. Hope to have a social media editor that can focus solely on social media and I can focus solely on advertising. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest one. It's a lot with communication. It takes time.
Commissioner Pavlikar?
So I know you specifically kind of talked more about like the recognition of critical thought the Gateway provides, serving as like a check and balance system to the university. How do you see that role changing moving forward with your plans to expand?
As in like critical analysis?
Yeah.
As we plan to expand, the big thing that we want to focus on is the coverage that we can get. We are a small team. We don't have that much coverage. We want to get to Scott campus. That is one aspect that we want to cover.
We're not doing as much as we want to be doing.
Right. We want everything to be covered, every aspect, news, culture, opinion, you know, the characters and characters of UNL, as Todd said, we need those aspects covered and we just don't have enough team to do that right now because of money allocation. But with that expansion, it's important that we stay critical in that way too, so.
Commissioner Roberson?
So just to confirm between the student management and staff wages, so if we see greater staff members join, those hours represented in student management will continue to persist, or is there a balancing act where staff wages? If you're not provided those staff wages, you're able to deal with staff members, those are the hours that would be at reflected.
Yeah, so I think I'm getting what you're saying. So these are, I mean, would be pretty much static numbers and static hours. We would be, these would maintain the same. I mean, I read over a good chunk of the stories along with like, so the way that we are structured now, it is almost misleading in title because editors are doing a lot of the writing and reporting because unlike say the 90s when we had a crap load of people working for us, we're making, I think I looked at a book, it was $280,000 a year in revenue. Adjusted for inflation, it was like 1 something there. Unlike that, I mean, we are quite small. They're doing all the writing and reporting. They're doing a lot of the writing, reporting, editing. I'm looking at a lot of their stories often, coming through the stuff that they're working on. I guess, could you rephrase?
So yeah, so I guess
Yeah.
kind of third, you're right, because you indicated that you wear many hats because of the lack of staff. Right. If we were to get the 35,000 in the years, we wouldn't have to wear as many hats. Therefore, are those hours
Right.
still required?
So-
Say there be like more, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have actually thought about that because we were like, well, if we're gonna split this where it's advertisement and social media are separated now, how do we justify those 15 hours? And it's simply the advertisement comes back into the gateway. We don't get to advertise the gateway typically. There's not, like, I don't have time to sit there and advertise the gateway because I have 15 hours doing social media and advertisement by communications. So we said, okay, as an advertising manager, that means you have to secure advertisements, but you also have to produce all the content for the gateway itself. So that's getting on the bullseye. That's creating events or, you know, getting that outreach in some aspect, being at every tabling event that we're going to be trying to do, doing every distribution. An advertising manager doesn't just fall under just doing advertising. You have to advertise for the gateway. So it's like essentially it does even out to where the hours do have to kind of, they have to stay with that, where social media would be at 10 and advertising would be at 15.
If we had more staff writers to be able to take, say, like the coverage, Steven's been helping out like athletic events, if we had another staff writer that we could task them with one of their few stories of the week, doing that instead of helping with that athletic event instead of well, if they were helping with that instead of Steven, it gives us more time. I mean, more hours in the day. Time is very precious. Steven would be able to seek out more advertising. We've only had time now, kind of like I said, we've only had the time now to really be able to seek out those because some burdens have been shifted around. When it came to editing content for the website daily, that alleviated some pains. We have been able to justify for the time being a couple more staff writers. Yeah, it is a balancing act, but I do see that position as requiring to stay at that. And we people are put to work.
Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
I don't know if this is information you can share, but approximately how much did you make in ad revenue over the last year since the last SIBC?
I can take that one if you want.
Yeah.
So about $400 from that one Amazon ad, because we had pivoted towards kind of getting stuff off the ground. We, like I said, we hadn't really, the publications committee wanted us to more invest in taking that time to build a social media presence, to figure out where we want to go story-wise, kind of take our stories more so back to the campus, whereas instead of writing up national releases and whatnot, it's kind of been, sorry, could you repeat that as well?
Just like, I didn't know if you were allowed to tell us how much you had made in ad revenue over
Yeah,
like the
okay,
last
yeah.
year.
So, I mean, we just recently kind of started being able to do that again. That one full page Amazon ad was $400 some, but we also have multiple lined up right now for our next publication
And
and also social media.
to add to that, the allocation to grow social media was super important. We analytically wise, we went from 800 followers to 1,000. We grew in under one semester to a point to where that 1,000 number is huge for advertisers. People see that and they're like, hey, oh, cool. This is a thing that's actually doing cool stuff on campus. So the allocation to do that was important, but also in previous years coming out of COVID, the paper wasn't what it was with quarterly and stuff like that. There wasn't much reason for an advertiser to even kind of reach out or try and get into that. So that's why we're only at $400. But then they paid the 400, but then also the guarantee to do another full page ad for podcast segments. And there's more local advertisers that want to be in this next issue as well. So it will grow, that number will grow, but from last SABC it is.
The pressure's back on, I would say. Like, we don't want to come up here and ask like a ton from all of you, because we know your job is to keep it as low as possible. We want to be able to keep it low going forwards. We're really pushing hard for this. I feel like it is part of our bylaws. Like, we are supposed to, we need to be able to have a solid advertising and marketing wing, just like our sister papers and whatnot. They have like a whole marketing group is what they call it. It's fancy. You look it up.
I am.
Yeah, but yeah, we're trying to figure it out, and I think we're making good pushes. I mean, you can always tell us against that, but I think we're doing good. And we're going to get to that point. We're going to get to a better place. Yeah.
Commissioner Baku.
Hearing your software and equipment requests and some of the things that you're dabbling into, like podcasts, it seems like you're kind of making a little jump into the digital market, I guess, or switching from paper to digital. So have you guys thought of kind of reducing the amount that you print to ads for maybe the new website and just kind of pushing more towards a digital gateway? Because I'm a person who, I see the gateway papers, I'm also a person who has a cell phone. So for me personally, it's easier to reach the gateway off of your website and see the stories there instead of picking up a paper. So have you thought about reducing the prints and moving more towards the digital side?
Yeah, so I mean, we've thought about it, and we can adjust our printing schedule. This year I set out to find a better printer, and we did. We were previously printing at the Omaha World Herald and it was expensive. It was more expensive than we are paying now, for our current provider, White Wolf Web based in Iowa. They're great, the quality is great. There's definitely a good point there, and the web is more accessible to most people. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, digitally, it's, but one aspect you have to think that we thought about, because it was a very big conversation we had, was why are we doing this? Why is this money being allocated? Because there are people that find a lot of importance and emotional attachment to this physical paper. For example, I don't know if any of the commissioners know Jeffrey Southall. He reached out to us because his grandmother kept clippings of the paper from when he was a child. And he asked for our archives and support. These papers, one, it gives people like layout, and editor in chief is layout right now. They give them they give them the professional development skills to do a layout in paper, which translates to other things where it's not just newspaper, because this layout, these skills can be used for magazine, books, and other avenues outside of just newspaper. So it's important to have a publication and a publishing because it is an aspect of professionalism for the future, but also there's an emotional aspect to that as well, where people enjoy holding tangible papers. And that's something that I'm really strict away, because the Gateway was founded on this idea of student publication of news.
That is the end of that questioning period. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, we will now be moving on to Math Pro.
Point of clarification, is the question sheet still open to accept questions?
Yes, so commissioners, please feel free to leave any additional questions on that sheet and all the organizations have access to that. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody, I am Trace Benham. I am presenting for Maverick Productions today, so I am our Vice President of Finance. I'll bring you what Maverick Productions is. You're gonna love what's in the store as soon as you can next. So who we are Maverick Productions, and that is a photo image of all of our web coordinators from last year. What we are is also on the next slide. So as the designated programming board, you know, Maverick Productions is an organization for students by students that strives to create inclusive, engaging events for all students on campus. In addition to this, we foster collaboration and a sense of community with each other, the organizations, and the Omaha area. All right, so just to give an idea of what our events consist of, we typically have events that are either traditional events, which means they're something that have been occurring every single year at UNO. And then we have more general programming stuff that is more one-off events. And then if they are a hit and they have really good attendance and students love it, we try and bring it back every single year. So the biggest event that we have in our non-concert years is typically Glow at UNO. It is a big concert. We hire a DJ and they have their glow paint. They do it at colleges everywhere. And it has been a hit event for as long as I have been here, except for the first 2 years because COVID canceled it both. But we brought it back in 2021 and we had our largest attended Glow ever with 1,700 students there. And then this year we had 1,531 students attend. So it's a hit event every year. And then to promote these hit events such as Glow at UNO and our concert, you can go to the next slide. We like to do events that are a little bit before them, as Glow was kind of the finale of like the first 2 weeks of school being like Durango Days. We did a movie night this year and last year to help promote that and, you know, get students together, as that's like when you're settling into campus, like you're trying to like corporate and stuff, and what better way to do than to go get some free stuff and watch a movie. So this year we had a movie night and we showed Guardians of the Galaxy, even though conditions were pretty rough. It was about, if anyone remembers the first 2 weeks trying to walk to class, I was about to drop all my ones that were in person personally. But it was like 107 degrees. It was super duper humid outside, and we still got 560 students out there. It probably helped that we had ice cream, but whatever. Our t-shirts that were, specifically made to be worn at Glow, because we don't really want people messing up their regular shirts they wear every day, considering it's gonna get stained with every color under the rainbow and then some more. But we had that, t-shirts, the E-Creamer ice cream truck, and we had a coloring contest this year to give away tickets for Glow. So we had a little alien that you could color and then submit it to our Instagram. We had students vote. It was super fun, and the winner got like 10 free tickets to give to their friends. And then t-shirts were going within 60 minutes of the 3-hour event, and there were more people waiting for them, so we could have easily accommodated more. Next slide. And then this is another one of our traditional events. It's a little bit more low-key than Glow. It doesn't involve, 1,000 people standing directly next to each other. But we had this about 2 weeks ago. Essentially, it's like Build-A-Bear, except instead of Build-A-Bear, it's Build-A-Bear or a dragon or a sheep or a cow, pretty much whatever you want. We had a lot of stuffed animals this year. And apart from that, we have a photo booth that's kind of like, if you've ever been to a wedding and it like gives you a little, not a Polaroid, but like a photo to keep up forever. That's what it was. We had like fun little props and stuff. And then this year, something new, we had shirts that you could put on the bear, so you could like sign your name on it. I don't know, fun stuff like that. Well, this event was also a hit. This year we had 380 people attend it, and we ran out of bears 90 minutes in, and we still had a line for people waiting to get bears. So again, we could have easily accommodated more people here. And then collaboration, we said that we want to be a more inclusive campus, and as we are actually funded by the university, we try and use our money to give more of a spotlight on organizations that are not funded by the university and have to use either member dues or just anything they can find, and make sure that they have the opportunity to reach as many students as possible as well. And so one of the ways that we do that is with our grant program. Our grant program is determined by the Board of Regents, and it helps us allocate funds to student organizations and non-agencies. And then we have budgeted $10,000 a year to any organization that wants a grant and deserves it. We've got a tier 1 grant that is about $350 for events under 50 people. And we have a tier 2 grant for events that are over 50 people, and it is up to $1,000. We try and keep it to things that are either philanthropy related, if it's a larger organization that does not really need our money, or it can be for anything if it's a organization that do not really have their own funding, such as Club Soccer. So in the past 2 years, we've given grants to Esports Club, ISA, CBC, Rho Epsilon, Delta Chi, Alpha Xi Delta, AMS, QTS, Club Soccer, and Sigma Kappa. For the two ones off the top of my head, just to give an example of what these grants would be for. Esports wanted to have their own LAN party tournament, and that comes with a lot of like initial setup that they didn't really have. So we gave them a tier 1 grant, and they were able to get all of the Ethernet cables and extension cords, I suppose, and like the big blocks where you can plug like 18 things in at once, because they've all got their own monitors running. And then for Club Soccer, we were able to fund their transport to a tournament that was in Kansas City. So that was great for them as well. Next slide. And aside from that, we do partnerships. Basically, we help other organizations on campus plan and provide a little bit of funding for an event. The biggest example of this was last year. We had the walking drag show with QTS. We were able to give them $10,000 so they could have Britta Filter, who was one of the drag queens on RuPaul's Drag Race from about 2017, I believe. So that event was super fun. We also had t-shirts there, and we worked in collaboration with QTS to put on a great time for everyone involved. But we have also done this in the past with WGEC, QTS, Maverick Maniacs, and we're currently partnering with Sustain UNO for our annual Earth Day thing, and AMS, who we will be providing here. And then current allocation. So MAVPRO's current allocation from last year was $109,500 with intent of pulling $20,000 from reserves. Slide. So our budget this year breakdown, you'll notice it's a little bit larger than what we're allocated. So right now we have an overflow of reserves. We are aiming for about $150,000 in reserves, but as we specifically delve in events that are quite literally as many students as possible right next to each other, you can imagine that 2020 through 2021 was a very rough year for us. And while it was a year where we couldn't really do anything, It also happened to be the year that we were granted the largest budget ever, being like $239,000. So pretty much all of that was pocketed directly into our reserves. So for the past couple of years, we've been kind of supplementing our own budget with stuff from our reserves to make sure it's a smooth transition to get back up to where we were. So this year, it is a concert year, and we have gone from in the past being like 2012 to 2020. We've had a concert every single year, but with the budget cuts around the University of Nebraska system as a whole, we have decided to move to having a concert every other year, so that our budget can, it just would not be sustainable being at $200,000 a year. But so this year, our concert is going to cost about $60,000 for the artist, getting Baxter Arena and all that. Then a little bit of that will be supplemented by ticket sales, and then general program events, being everything that was not Glow at Very Berry, or just those two, was $90,000. Traditional events, $15,000, which just covered Glow at this year, and then administration, $2,500, and PR, $2,000. Slide, and then the reserves process. So I explained before, we have a ton of reserves. Going through it here. So now we created a formalized process for pulling money directly from our reserves. And in order to obtain this, we have to use up our entire yearly budget. The majority of our organization has to approve requests, VP of Finance approves, and then the organization advisor approves. Next slide. So we currently have $312,630.89, which is way more money than we need to have saved. So that's why we plan on using it every concert year. And our target amount for that is $150,000. Next slide. It already explained. Yeah, next slide. All right, so our ideal operating budget. I base this off of what MathPro had before COVID, and that was about $239,000 in 2020 through 2021. With our fall enrollment this year being 2,189 students for first-time freshmen, which I kind of use as like a benchmark for how many people are actively at UNO. That matches and exceeds by 36 students what it was in the 2019 calendar year when we were granted $239,000. So in the upcoming 5 or 6 years, obviously I will be far gone by then, but I want to at least put us on the right track to get back up to the budget that we once were. And adjusting for not having a concert every single year, I think a fair amount, again, like 6 years down the line would be $180,000 a year. With programming expenses not being separated between traditional and non-traditional events, $130,000, and then saving $50,000 to the reserve in non-concert years, pulling that out in the concert years to put on like a full $100,000 concert, such as like Logic and Black Bear the years that before I was a student. Next up. And so to get us on track to getting back to the glories of pre-2020 MathPro, my proposed budget for this year will be $130,000, which is a $20,500 increase. And so for the next year, this is what our breakdown would look like. General programming will go down $10,000 from what we were allocated last year, as I moved some of that budget towards the traditional events. Last year for traditional events, we only had $15,000 allocated, and that's why it is sitting at negative $15,000 on that budget sheet, because Glow at alone costed $15,000, and adding in Very Berry and the Earth Day event, which are done every single year, it's going to be closer to $45,000. Then administration and PR will stay the same at $2,500 to $2,000, but there will probably be a bigger breakdown on the next slide here, each line item. General programming, to repeat, this line item are non-traditional events that we come up with throughout the year. These are mainly events that event coordinators plan and develop, and we want to continue to give them a chance. This year's general program events have included Fall Festival, Field Day, Movie Night, Valis tickets, sponsoring the QTS Drag Show, Disco on Ice, and more events coming on this spring. Next slide. Traditions is for traditional events at UNO. Some examples of these events are Glow, Very Berry, and Earth Day. And this year we sold out t-shirts for Glow and stuffed items/shirts for Very Berry after less than 90 minutes. A lot of students enjoy these events, and we want to be able to hold the events next year and meet the excess demands of our students. Next slide. Public relations. These funds will help advertise our productions events. This would include items like pens, tablecloths, and banners purchased under this line item. PR for MathPro sponsored events held by other organizations can also help improve outreach for up and coming student boards. And special event insurance, this is pretty much just in those rare cases where we need something, like for example, for Field Day this year, we had these huge inflatables and models of obstacle course, and the university is not gonna cover that if anything goes wrong. So that's why I put the special life insurance budget here. Also for concerts, that was a big risk as well. So in 2022, we had a special event insurance cost of $1,100. And grant program is $0. So we plan to allocate $10,000 from our current reserves to fund the grant program. So for the near future, we can fund grant program entirely from our reserves. So I did not include it in the budget. And then final remarks. Maverick Productions strives to program fun and inclusive events for the entire student body to enjoy. With the help of these allocated funds, we will continue to collaborate with UNO student organizations in the Omaha community to provide a sense of community at UNO. If you have any questions, ask them right now, or you can email me too.
Okay, entering a period of questioning. Commissioner Sherrod.
Should we explain the partnerships that you have and the implications of that towards the?
Yes, so the partnerships that we have, the difference between the grant program and the partnerships is grant program is we just give them money to operate or put on their events. And partnerships is we only give them a little bit of money from our budget or like fund the events. Because usually there are organizations that have a lot less funding than MAPFRA does. But we also use our event coordinators to like help staff those events. If it is something traditionally larger, then their members will be able to put on. So basically, we give them the money to put on the event and help them run the event with our staff as well.
Commissioner Briggenhagen.
Do you have any partnerships within the greater Omaha community, any outside organizations helping to supplement any of these expenses or even just helping put events on, or is it all entirely MAPFRA?
It's all entirely the UNO students.
Okay.
Commissioner Roberson.
I'm not quite sure if you can share, but in terms of reserves, that's a pretty penny. Is that in an interest area?
I don't believe it is. So my plan for reserves was to kind of fully fund the concert until it gets to a more reasonable amount. So this year we would spend about $50,000 from our reserves to fund the concert. The next year we wouldn't spend any because that's another concert year. And then the year after that, we'd spend $80,000 to try and get it as low as possible or to $150,000 in reserves because it's not in an interest-bearing account. So it's in our best interest to get that money used as fast as we possibly can.
Any other questions? Commissioner Pawskar.
You kind of explained the tier 1 versus tier 2 grant system that you have to kind of allocate money to other student organizations. How do you advertise that system to those organizations?
I think it's mostly traveled by word of mouth, but as soon as they inquire about a grant program, we have a request form on our presence page. We have a meeting with them and then we have a grant program committee led by our grant program director. And they basically present to us and then we decide whether or not their event is worthy or qualified for a tier 1 or a tier 2 grant. And then we vote on whether we think those funds are being fairly used and if we need them, we can justify them. It usually is a yes, but we at least do our due diligence. And so then it's decided whether to get the tier 1 or the tier 2.
Commissioner Roberson.
Couple questions regarding attendance to events. One, do you receive any survey data in terms of satisfaction and feedback from those who attend? And two, I know you said there's many events where you ran out of supplies, like does running out of those materials dissuade people from coming back the next year, or do you think that's more of a driver for people to not only attend but to show up early?
So to answer the first question, sorry, could you repeat it one more time?
If you received survey feedback.
So we don't have any official like surveys on Instagram or anything, but most of our feedback comes in the form of either angry Instagram comments or just word of mouth. So for example, like a year and a half ago, we had a Toppers event where there was free food and it ran out and Toppers was also not prepared for it. So we had like a line going on to Dodge and it was a bad day for our PR team. I did delete a ton of comments. So that's kind of where the most of our negative feedback comes, but it's mostly relating to either like complications with like Baxter's website for, you know, getting tickets, because if you've ever refreshed the page for a Taylor Swift concert, that's kind of what it looked like when we did our last MapPro concert. But we are working to not have that happen again this year. And then, yeah, just word of mouth. But it's mostly related to just running out of stuff. And as far as running out of stuff being a deterrent for people coming back in the future, I think it is not, because we've kind of just seen it shift more from people kind of interspersing, showing up whenever they're free from like 5 to 7 p.m., for example, if that's when we're giving out ballast tickets, to there being a huge line starting at 4:50, and then we sell out in 60 minutes or 30 minutes rather than the entire 2 hours that we had slotted for them.
Commissioner Bear?
Thanks, Trace. What do you guys do the 2,500 for on PR?
2,500 for PR is mostly towards our concert and any events that we do with student work. So if you've ever been in like Ash, for example, you know, all the bulletin boards, I think they're called bulletin boards, where you can physically advertise stuff. Like if someone's running for like student government, they'll put flyers all across campus. That's similar to what we do with concert PR and any events that we partner with other organizations to make sure it reaches as many students as possible.
More the paper stuff versus like buying an ad on Instagram.
Oh, that is a great question. So another thing that we've recently started to do, we're kind of trying to utilize like Instagram and TikTok for advertising. And if you've ever seen like the popular bigger campuses, I guess, where they're like, answer this question and you get a free $10 gift card or whatever. We have started kind of diving into that just because it's a fun thing to do, show up on people's Instagram feeds. We're giving away Pickleman's gift cards now, or like a free sandwich voucher at Pickleman's, just to kind of advertise so that we have a bigger outreach on Instagram and we reach more students so that they know when these events are happening, because, you know, it's free for them regardless.
And that would come from the PR line item.
Yep.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, Trace. Commissioner Hurtfall Hardy?
I'm in the room for 10 minutes.
Okay, can I get a second for that? Commissioner Bear? Now we'll enter a period of discussion.
Point of information. What is a move to group for familiar?
A move to groove is essentially a break. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move into a period of voting. Please raise your placard if you vote to move to groove. Okay, in the opinion of the chair, the motion carries.
Yeah, the 39. I put it on.
Hope you're not here past.
No, it's already my work. What I have to I don't say that. Update that or what?
It's 138.
The kicker like this.
$590.
Yeah, no. You know what? Yeah, sleep the Australian.
Okay, I see.
You're all energized.
There.
No, maybe we're just.
Sorry.
At least we would.
My dad has been here for a decade, you know, he immigrated a while ago and he's still mad. Every time it like gets,
Order, okay. Yes, Commissioner Bear.
I'd like to state a bias here, I was not aware.
Okay.
I am a fraternity brothers with the president of BAM Productions.
Okay. Anyone else? Cool, okay, we will now move on to Student Government Association.
Evening, everyone. My name is Hakeem Latoro. Can you hear me? All right. So we'll be starting off with a few disclaimers or a few addendums to begin with. I wanted to switch to the second slide to go over the presentation is going to look like tonight. So we do have a few different categories that we're grouping our line items in, just in the interest of time, although our line items will not appear this way in our budget. As soon as we finish SGA's request, then we will review SGA's agency's request, and we will review SGA's total request. We are talking about SGA's request in SGA's budget presentations here. After a review of our policies in comparison to Board of Regents policies, there are some discrepancies we sought to recognize, and we do believe that having SGA present on behalf of the agencies will accomplish that. So moving on to the next slide, we're starting off with our unchanged request. So our first unchanged request, contingency. SGA spends a lot of money on a lot of different things, and as we try to request our budget, we do so at a very close to at cost basis, but at times we do run under and we do experience shortfall in certain line items that we do need to make. Agency this year has been going to funding shortfall in our apprenticeship program. Past years, it's gone to funding shortfall in programming, office supplies. It's a real catch-all. Our gala is an end of the year celebration where we we invite all of our student government members to celebrate their membership and service throughout the entire year. This gala line is also a little bit different. It would have fit a little bit better in the new line. But due to that technical we talked about, we are operating with a slightly outdated version of this presentation. So we are imagining gala as a new overhead. So supplies, oh, sorry, before I said that. I'm making now back. With gala, we are also spending money on largely our food purchases. So we do have $150 going to funding any awards that we give out to our committees, individual members, and members from the community and the campus that we try to honor as well. And for our next set of unfinished requests, we have supplies. SGA is also doing something a little bit different this year with our office supplies. So while I have I am also going to ask the SABC to consider increasing that line to $300 and in addition of to $120 to reflect an addition of a Canvas subscription to the not the office. That's going to be discussing that in the dues, fees, and subscriptions. I will stay on top of the office supplies. So office supplies, we largely purchase stationery. We purchase items like our towels, our minor functionary products that we use to just stay a little bit more. FLC, SGA does not allow first year students to run for positions just by virtue of how our elections are structured. And to try to allow space for first year students to still serve inside of student government and to still allow their ideas to be platformed and to benefit students. We also encourage our FLC members to hold a yearly project. So this year, our yearly project is creating and donating Tide blankets to the Humane Society of Nebraska to that's Tide blankets to animal shelters helping provide moving on with retreats. SGA has a very contentious environment just by the nature of how our parliamentary structure kind of pits us against each other sometimes. And as such, we do need to constantly look at ways to reinvest into how we can improve our communication and really reduce as much of that discontent as possible. We found that in being intentional about how we go about setting up our retreats, finding workshops that are structured with the intent of improving communication, improving mental wellness and the like, we have found that communication has improved. Swearing in, very similar to Gala, it's an end of the year, start of the year celebration really, where we to be sworn in and to begin their terms. And this is also an event that is funded by catering, funding largely catering. So for increase requests, before we get to that point, we were going to imagine, like I said, that we were still on our new English is very difficult for me tonight. You can see why I'm sitting down. Before we go over to our increase requests, we're going to imagine a slide existing here. And on this programming slide, we're going to imagine that a few of the events that we held this year and that we intend to continue into the next year. So SGA's events have largely consisted of trying to inspire civic engagement on campus, trying to inspire DEIA advancements on campus, as well as trying to increase our outreach and connection with students. So this has looked like town halls. We held an SGA hockey pregame event that was actually led by Commissioner Marty. And we also looked at learning about the legislature events where we invited students in with collaboration with the Office of External Relations and your UNO counterparts. I really apologize to Tony Monette for that, but we partnered with that office as well to also invite speakers to teach students about ways to be active inside of the unicameral, active inside of government in general. Moving on now to the increase requests. We do have a slight increase to our accountant retainer. So SGA does maintain an accountant retainer with the CPA firm QuickBooks. So in the past we held a contract with a mom and pop shop that while they served really good prices, eventually they did go out of business, and that has forced us to turn to some larger firms that have increased our prices pretty substantially. Where we once saw 4,500 was a pretty reasonable amount. Now we're raising up to 8,000. Moving over to our decrease requests. That we've also tried to find ways in our budget to reduce costs anyway. And as we've reviewed our agency budget allocation requests, we believe that if we fund the agencies fully, we will not have to reuse our line in the way that we have in the past. As we've seen in the past, this line has largely gone to not exclusively partnerships with our agencies, rather funding shortfall in our agencies' line items. So where we saw, for an example, the Women and Gender Equity Center met a $5,000 shortfall with their menstrual health line item. We met some of that need through our agency partnership line. And we do believe that in trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible, we should obtain a successful budget with the partnership line this year. Although as we move into the next year, we do hope to find new ways to be more intentional and more supportive to the students with that. So moving into our new requests, this section I did a little bit weirdly. So our new requests do have exclusively new line items like our public relations and outreach line, our public relations and outreach and student orphans. So with our public relations and outreach, we saw that very often we were spending a majority of our programming budget on our outreach committee's events. And what we do believe very strongly in the events that they have held, and we have seen positive feedback from students attending these events. We do still want to free up space in our program budget to hold those events that are more DEI minded, that are more civically engagement minded. And similarly to the student court, we also want to free up space in our student court's ability to in adjudicating issues student organizations face. So as a student court tries to hold hearings very similar to the SABC Commission's hearings, we can run on pretty long, and we can find that our student court justices are not able to this. So student court is form of student government that adjudicates issues inside of the body. And as this body has long hearings that can drag on, we want to try to find ways to first keep retention inside of student court by creating an environment where they can access food easily, access office supplies more easily, and where they are less held to needing to go to student government each time they needed, say, a new gal or a new or any functionary purchase. And in addition to those new lines, exclusive to new lines, we also have lines that are combined that I'm also calling new in some ways. So our professional is functionally our communication, conference. It's our new conference line. And as we found that SGA has not invested very well into trying to grow our members' abilities to operate within the body and grow our ability to receive feedback from the students, we really want to challenge that next year. We want to find ways to participate on a larger stage. We want to find ways to build relationships with other campuses, find new routes of shift through. We really want to create the environment where student government is able to be more open and more accepting of information. And by that service back to students. Our dues, fees, and subscriptions line, this is the one that I was talking about a little bit too early. This would account for a purchase of an Amazon Prime subscription as well as a subscription to Samsung that would allow us purchase significantly easier. We found that it reduces our costs on a pretty across the board. Although we have sought to find sources of load in our budget, and we have found that agencies are consulting subscriptions that we have found a way to combine into one line. So if we instead of 324, increasing that amount by 120, and that would allow us to purchase a Canvas subscription for the entirety of SGA and its agencies using 3 agency allocation requests by 120. So this would be our NDA, our WDAC, and our FGSA. Not our NDA or our universal partner. So SGA works with a number of UNO offices to partner with Metro to allow students to ride anywhere within the Metro shuttle system for free. So by providing a app card, students are able to set right away in the shuttle system. But in addition to that, we've also tried to, this almost 10th year anniversary now, find ways to expand students' transportation solutions again by looking at an increase of roughly 22,000, introducing a partnership with the Heartland Recycle program. So where this program initially only allowed students to ride anywhere within the metro, orbit, or similarly connected shuttle systems, students would then be able to through an additional cost of $5, be able to purchase passes to Heartland Recycle right anywhere within that. I do have statistics for that. That I was going to send out ad hocs, our ad hoc bike share compete. Moving on to insurance expenses. So HEA also funds insurance for all student organizations on campus, with the exception of MAPRO. This means that we experience a lot of burden in trying to meet that liability. And where student organizations may have difficulty with constantly trying to mediate new contracts with insurance providers, finding providers that are actually capable of delivering the services that are needed by students. Just that constant vetting program process had been not working, for lack of a better term. We couldn't expect our student organizations to try to manage such a large task. And as such we've assumed that burden through a $25,000 container that we use after a review of an event request to mediate those contracts. Our Maverick Leadership Program. So again, this is a partnership with a series of UNO offices.
Joyce, 1 second, I forgot to share the screen.
So like this is a partnership with a series of UNO offices, most notably Academic Affairs, to purchase big copies of USA Today through the USA Today network. So this is also a contract that's mediated through the Student Government Corporation. That is something that I hope one of you will ask me about, because I do not think that I have a bunch of about it. And as students take copies of USA Today or the Omaha World Herald, the service is priced on usage. So the USA Today network provider will drop off copies of both of those papers. The papers will be picked up after a certain amount of time, and the amount of papers taken would be subtracted to reflect their costs. And we have seen with the Maverick Leadership Program that at $10,000 amount that we requested last year went pretty far, but did not take us to the finish line. And we have had to start using contingency funding to the end of the year. And as we move into the next line, so student legal services, a partnership with Life and Wellbeing. So this is a Student Legal Services is an office that had originated under this Division of Student Life and Wellbeing, funding a number of different legal services for students, operated by a lawyer, Jacob Stadola, in partnership with a few 2 to 3 student workers. And that office was able to serve a number of students for the past 2 years. Although they did find that the structure of their funding did not and students needed having legal services and we've sought to reassume that burden and to allow the student legal services to operate with more latitude in serving the students' needs. So as to to date, Student Legal Services has funded Student Legal Services has helped a little under 800 unique students. And moving on to the next one from this year. So this is the section where we start to get a little bit. I wonder how more outlandish can we already be than we already have been. So with the section, with the structure of that new allocation process, we have also found it necessary to request in a new structure. So as opposed to requesting operations demarcated into specific line items, we're requesting a total operations container for each of the respective agencies, a total programming container for each of the respective agencies, and similarly with salaries. Salaries, I will talk about all agency salaries at the end. And with that out of the way, with AMS's operations, AMS's operations largely serve, well, this next year is going to be AMS's 50th anniversary.
That is the end of the presentation period. Commissioner Bugenhagen.
I move to extend the presentation period by 20 minutes.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Poleskar. Now we will move into a period of discussion. Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
I feel more comfortable doing that, knowing that this time we also have to present all of the agencies, not just ourselves. And so that's part of why it's so much longer than it normally would be in previous years.
Seeing no further discussion, we will now move into a period of voting. All in favor, please raise their placard. Okay, all opposed? In the opinion of the sorry. In the opinion of the chair, the motion carries.
So picking up from where we left off, AMS's operations, the AMS has a very wonderful year next year. It's their 50th anniversary. We will also find out a lot of the agencies kind of came around this point, so it's going to be but AMS's operations are going to advertising and promotions, AMS's resources, a line dedicated to funding different organizations on campuses through their specific programming requests. Professional development line, so allowing AMS's students and board members to attend different conferences. The Black Girls Reproductive Justice Summit with the WGC, we'll talk about that, and the MASU conference. These will be talked about more in depth here. Dues, fees, and subscriptions. AMS is trying to fund a Canva. AMS is trying to purchase a Canva subscription and MailChimp. Office supplies. AMS, like any other, is trying to purchase stationery and regular functionary needs like furniture to furnish their office, as space has been very inaccessible given how many students use them. Programming, AMS's programming consists of meet the needs of a very diverse student population. And as such, AMS has sought to try to model their events in a very diverse manner. So the multicultural meet and greets, AMS has tabling events dedicated to meeting different multicultural organizations. That's a fall festival. It has a legacy tour partnering with the Office of Tony Monette that I do not remember. Again, civic engagement, office engagement. Yeah. The Office of Engagement. And it also works with a series of other agencies in funding a portion of their needs. Okay. And on to FGSA. FGSA's operations consist of, again, advertising and promotion. FGSA seeks to buy swag, dues, fees, and subscriptions. FGSA uses a few different social media apps in trying to approach marketing. Similarly, it uses Canva. This line will fund apps, subscriptions to those apps like office supplies. just that stationary largely. They have FGSA recently got a new office, and in trying to furnish that office, FGSA has increased their request of office supplies. School supplies resources is one of FGSA is very unique. It's that purchases school supplies for first generation students who do not often have the experience with purchasing supplies and not as often have the resources to be able to do so. So programming, FGSA's programming largely consists of trying to provide mindfulness and trying to provide community to students who are first gen on campus. So we have seen our major stress away event, self-care package based on de-stress fest weeks. Collaborative events similar to on their take part. As we go through the list of these agencies, we'll find collaborative attitude there that is moving on to ISS. So this is the presentation. We did have a little bit of a challenge with communicating with ISS directors to ascertain their requests in the first place. And as such, we've largely based their request on ISS's from the past year. We found that ISS has been able to operate advertising and promotions. ISS is not attended conferences this past year, but intends to reinvestment into this line item. Additionally, office supplies, ISS has a very small office space that does not allow a lot of students to work at it currently. ISS seeks to try to expand some of its technological capabilities across the board by purchasing computers as well as postage and supplies for international awareness. ISS also tries to fund. ISS also purchases items related to expanding understanding of international interests on campus and encouraging students to, as for Senator Friend, become more worldly. So ISS's programming largely consists of trying to create space for students to be more collaborative, more communicative. So this has looked like Henry Dorley Zoo trips. The ISS's International Banquet is a staple of the organization every year. And this has served to really bring international students from their bubble. We find pretty often that having separate housing, having separate classes, having additional language barriers consistently goes to serve a pretty big gap between international students and domestic students. And moving on to disability awareness, I've been saying their NEA, their operations is pretty similar to organizations. Advertising promotions largely makes up their operational request. They were also asking for dues, fees, and subscriptions through that Canvas subscription that I talked about earlier. However, if we do make that move, then we would not see that Canvas subscription being necessary. And office supplies. So you can see that we've seen across the board a very intentional attempt to try to consider how we approach using our office spaces and trying to create more space for students to and to be able to work, to be able to and NDA's new office space needs furnishing to facilitate that. especially furnishing that serves a population that needs acutely accessible services. So, programming, NDA seeks to actually improve it's pretty similar to the model of FGSA. It's very much mediated through the Rainbow Days and De-Stress Fest giveaway events. There are also monthly lunch and learn events that NDA needs to allow students to understand about the differences and barriers that disabled students with disabilities might face throughout the campus, as well as partnering with a number of agencies on their respective programming needs. QTS. Their advertising and promotions has, so starting with operations, their advertising and promotions has remained the same. They are also requesting to try to take a new look at how it approaches conferences. So QTS in the past has not invited a substantial number of students to conferences. And as it sends its board members to the nation's largest LGBTQ student-led conference, it really seeks to try to expand the amount of students that it's able to bring by reducing first the amount of conferences that it intends to attend. By first reducing the amount of conferences it intends to attend to allow more students to attend that one Midwest lesbian, gay, transgender, asexual college conference. Similarly to AMS's push to take a look at how it approaches. With programming, I also need to mention that QTS's programming has consisted of a staple homecoming drag show and a new event, Queer Prom, that has started either last year or the year before that to pretty wide acclaim. Again, with tradition, QTS also attends Heartland Pride, presenting UNO's biggest organization attending most often, as well as a continued Big O campaign and support group meetings. Big O refers to the Big O gazebo, which is a gazebo set up outside of typically Mellowville that invites students to come and learn about different technical safety resources, mental health resources, or parenting resources. Next section that constitutes the essential supplies group. So with their operations, their professional development line, previously with their operations, they intend to first start with professional development with their conferences, sending more students to conferences has been a pretty intentional push by our agency this year. So we've seen that through really intentional attendance at specific conferences, we've been able to membership, we've been able to improve attitudes amongst our membership, as well as a boost in morale. Yes. Okay. And in addition to professional development happening alongside of that in the form of an intimate self-managed trainer event, which has been very, how do I say, new and inspiring event that the WGC has sought to take on that. So moving on to the dues, fees, and subscriptions, I have to move on for my time here. They are also requesting a MailChimp account as well as a Canva account. Office supplies, WGC shares an office with AMS. That's a lot of people in a little bit of space, and as such, they've had to take a look at how the office is organized. Go into the space, so they have found furniture pieces to allow the space to be more open, accessible to all students. So sexual health resources, mental health resources, and parenting resources, such as supplies program. This number, let's see, 5,700. This is also a vestige of that presentation that should put 34,510 now. And due to these technical difficulties, I would love to, again, include a review of the numbers in questions if that is asked for. Moving on with our programming for the WGC has a outline project, inviting students to share their stories of domestic abuse, surviving sex ed night, and understanding the unicameral event, which is a little bit too similar to our Learn About the Legislature event. We are hoping to find ways to try to diversify the future. Take back the night, a sustainable master product giveaway, as well as the big campaign that is study. Finishing with our director salaries. So I sought to try to make this process a little bit more expedient and that it can be very long-winded. So in looking at our agency director salaries requests as a whole, our 6 agencies are requesting $6,000 respectively. And requesting that amount remain unchanged from last year, as we have found that requesting an amount in line with the Nebraska wage increase of 2022 has allowed us to our agency directors to provide the best service to our student population. We see that agency directors are often the backbone of their organizations, and as such, they often are the most responsible for including seeing funding, stewardess, or managing events and organizing their board as a whole. As agency directors' duties become more burdensome, and as we enter a world that's significantly expensive to live in, we really need to try to allow our agency directors to be the best in their position possible without having to be burdened by the not having to be burdened investing less time to our patients. And as we move on to the last slide, our request, although I am asking for a slight with the changes of that Canva account, and I do not want to place the burden on the SABC to try to figure out what our request looks like. I have to send out to the commission tonight if that is also requested in the questions. And I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into a period of Q&A. Commissioner Fuchs?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the spreadsheet in front of me, and I ran the numbers, and based on this year's and last year's, the WGC had an increase of 108%. I know you said there was some sort of discrepancy there, so would you please, I know you said you wanted to, but would you please
Yes, in
clean up what's
addition to
going on
that, so I believe that jury costs should be $100 that we were intending to go to funding a and flow purchase after, okay, how do I say this? The WGC's director Zoe Miller found an agreement with the organization and flow as well as the Anflo dispensers, their menstrual cup dispensers, throughout the women facing bathrooms on campus, public restrooms on campus. And from their facilities agreed to continuously restock. So EWGC's agreement had then been, the WGC side of the agreement had then been assumed by the larger student government. The larger student government side of the agreement had been assumed by the Division of Student Life and Wellbeing, so that 57,000 51,000 should be 25,500 dollars.
Just go ahead.
I did see, so if you would go back to the, please.
For the WGC?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you said that, what, 25,500, give or take?
Not 25,500.
Yes, and so with that, and then the budget you have up there, that still leaves approximately a $1,300 discrepancy, so
Yes.
where does that money come into play?
To my knowledge, that number is not reflective of the WGC's budget at all. I would say that that number functionally does not exist. We imagine that reflects the 34,500. 34,510 a month, I said, because like I said, we had experienced technical difficulties in building this presentation. That's what happened. I was on the last hour getting ready to turn in my presentation, and as I was downloading it, my iPad crashed. So I had some slides that were of the most up-to-date information and some slides that were like estimates. Budget could look like. It's not exactly that 5,700 number is not there. The 3,400 should include, I think 34,000 includes all the operational costs. With the 25,500.
Mr. Pauskar?
Without.
So the previous year's allocation is for roughly the 33,550 that's listed. There have also been SGA resolutions passed to practically double this. There was SGA 23-24-011 that gave the WGEC $23,000 for menstrual products, as well as SR 23-24-020. So with those kind of factoring in, like, what do we have in terms of like a financial breakdown for the WGEC?
I'm sorry, could you refer to that first resolution?
Yeah, so SGA resolution 23-24-011, it was on two Senate dates for the 19th of October and the 12th of November.
So like I said, the WGC had initially assumed the cost of the Anflo dispensers. But seeing as this was a service that we saw that a very substantial amount of the student population sought to benefit from. We thought that leaving that cost with just the WJC alone was government, we thought that was a burden and better plan. And as such, we passed that resolution to allocate 23,000 from our reserves to the WGC. WGC's project, I mean, reserve solution, we're allocating to specifically allocate to projects. That's a large conversation. Following that, when we were purchasing the dispensers, came to find out that that 23,500 roughly amount that was supported partially by small additions of a few thousand by a few other agencies. That 23,000 from our reserves did not exist in the way that we thought it did. Of our reserves, we found that it did not account for the roughly $99,000 that we had offset of the student legal services budget. So as we've seen the student legal services budget jump to roughly double, it's because last year we held half the cost with our reserves. As that number hadn't been reflected in our accounts, we thought we had more. We allocated money that not yet. Luckily, the division we still able to.
Commissioner Fair.
I'm just still confused on what the request is for the WGC. Navia, are you able to pull the spreadsheet on the screen?
Of course.
So we can make sure we're all looking at the same thing?
Where would you like me to go?
Could you go to the WGC one? So is that 51,000 the correct number?
That 51,000 includes 25,500 for inflow dispensers. Now been offset by the division of student life.
So the request needs to be updated.
Yes.
Point of clarification. Is that a confirmed thing, or does this commission need to make that?
Also, I should also add that. So the reason that that number was not reflected immediately was because that we were still in the process of acquiring that confirmation. This confirmation did come in verbal form from the Dean of Students, Kathy Pettit, last Senate meeting on Thursday. And one number will not last Thursday, Thursday before that, when we had business. Following that confirmation, Dean Pettit also sought and considered the cost of the dispensers and met with the inflow people, we'll call them that,
So
to finalize it.
So do we have on paper somewhere that says that this needs to be removed?
Well, that's kind of the funny thing about the application process, that once I've given this to you, my hands kind of can't touch it.
I got you.
Quick reminder, all commissioners, please wait to be recognized before you speak. That is okay. Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
Point of information, am I allowed to further clarify a point based on what I know, having been at that meeting, just to add clarity to that question?
Yes, as long as you state your bias.
So it's restating my bias. I am a member of student government. I was present at that meeting. What happened there was we were told that we could get that funding, but the worry was because we hadn't actually seen a check written at the time that we were approving this, we didn't want to subtract the 25,500 because it's easier for us to get to next week and say, hey, we know we have this money, so can we change that to be $25,000 less than what it says, than for us to have shown up next week and been like, hey, guys, So we're gonna move to add $25,000 to this. So at that time, it had been confirmed verbally, but we were just doing it out of an abundance of caution. But so long as we have that as an absolute confirmed factor.
That is the end of the questioning period. Commissioner Bugenhagen.
Move to extend the questioning period by 10 minutes.
Okay. Commissioner Hirschbaum already second. Now entering a period of discussion.
I would say,
Commissioner Hubbard.
I would say 30 minutes, just because I think we just scratched the surface on the agency portion of this budget, and I think it's gonna, in my opinion, take longer.
Okay. Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding.
Motion to amend the extension to 30 minutes.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Bugenhagen. Now we will enter a period of discussion. Seeing no further discussion, we'll move on to a period of voting. All those in favor, please raise your placard.
So, point of clarification, are we voting on the amendment or the like addition?
The amendment.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, 12, see. According to the chair, the motion carries. Okay, moving back to the motion. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we will now enter a period of voting. All in favor, please raise your placards. Okay, all those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the motion carries.
Continuing that point, just the basic idea there was if, as long as we get to next week and we're 100% sure that that's fine, we're gonna ask to reduce it by that $25,500. We just thought it would be easier to ask for less than it would be for us to suddenly ask for $25,000 more out of nowhere. It was something that we discussed in the resolution that Commissioner Busker mentioned earlier. It got discussed so much and we just didn't have the money, which is why that is a one-time thing being added into that line.
Commissioner Bugenhagen.
To ask for some further clarification, Keating, or need to get to Director Miller, do we have a contract from facilities saying the money is coming, they're committed, or are we still kind of on our toes?
We have written confirmation, not in the form of a contract from facilities, but very real.
Can I ask what format the written confirmation said?
So I will also defer to Director Miller on this portion.
I have written confirmation from Dean of Students Kathy Pettit that she approves the purchase.
Thank you.
And in addition to that, written confirmation from Dean Pettit, we also received written confirmation that Dean Pettit had been in contact with facilities. Seeing to that contracts. Longevity.
Thank you.
Commissioners, please remember also that if you want to direct a question to someone in the audience, you are free to do so. Yes, Commissioner Postcard.
So with the 2,500 like rough estimate being allocated, I guess reallocated to the Division of Student Life and Wellbeing, was that initiated by Kathy or was that a proposition from the WGEC?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Kathy had heard about the project after it had gotten basically stalled within Senate because of the reserve situation. She approached me in end of February, about potentially covering part or all of the cost. Myself, Vice President Bostic from Student Government, and then Sierra, who's the SGA advisor. We all met with Dean of Students Pettit, end of February. She said she was willing to pay for all of it. And I met with Dean of Students Pettit, Trent Frederickson, Denise Kilgard, facilities, and the AMFLO team last Tuesday to confirm that purchase. And then on Thursday, we got an invoice and Kathy had approved it.
Commissioner Postcard.
So Kathy kind of approached the WGEC about covering the costs. And WGEC has like made the resolutions and propositions to get money out of the SGA agency allocations. Have other avenues been looked at in terms of fundraising, menstrual product drives, partnership with like out in the greater Omaha community, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely, like specifically with the project itself, or just like in.
In general, with the increase in like the need for menstrual products that we're seeing on campus?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess it'd be my wish that that $51,000 does get decreased to whatever it needs to be. So decrease it by that 25,000 when deliberations come next week, just because that is being covered by the division. We are currently in talks with Access Period to get a partnership with them. I'm not sure exactly what the details of that look like to start. It may be them covering half of our products that we offer. It could be them offering all of them. I'm just not sure what that looks like yet. We also have contacts through local and national nonprofits that have been very generous and willing to give us funding as we've approached some funding issues this fiscal year related to our essential supply program. Specifically, Planned Parenthood has a Generation Action Fund budget that they have graciously given us permission to use. So that's an avenue we've also sought out. Other than that, I think Access Period has been the greatest help to us with trying to acquire products wholesale. Just recently, we were able to get wholesale tampons and pads through freight, which is awesome. Other donations that come in through them, we've also been able to receive ourselves. So the steps are in process to become a partner with them. It's just not yet.
Any further questions? Commissioner Fuchs?
Yeah, so I hate to be that guy, I'm back on, just budget part of this, but, so I'm looking at the narrative now. And, I see the 51,000, is recorded accurately, but I'm looking at the overall request, and for starters, the overall request amounts to 68,800, which is 1,200 less than what is listed in the spreadsheet. And then further, without the ant flow, which, thank you for including that, it was very helpful to kind of see the thing. However, if you go off the spreadsheet, what we were given with what is on the screen, or what was on the screen just before, and you take the 25,500 out, then you get 44,500, which is still what is listed here. So I'm just.
What you see again?
I'm see right here at the bottom, right below salary, it says overall request $68,800, $43,200 without ant flow dispensaries, which does not add up to the math.
Yes. It's not up.
So I'm just curious as to where this discrepancy is coming. Where is this $1,200 or so like originating from?
Spreadsheet. Just need to have a more accurate answer for you.
Again, quick reminder that if you leave that question on that document in their file, he is able to go back and answer those questions. That goes for any organization that presented today as well. Commissioner Hirschbaum Hardy.
Other point of clarification, what is in this Excel document is what was voted upon as a body by student government. It is the official numbers that were approved through the official process. So truthfully, if you're looking to see what's actually being allocated by us as of now, before any changes next week, these are the only numbers that are valid numbers because they're the only ones that have traveled through all of Senate in the correct process.
Commissioner Buchenhagen.
Also taking a look at the spreadsheet, I see for ISS, we have listed as the requested allocation for the operations as $4,110. And the previous year's allocation was $3,810. I don't recall the exact number that the Senate voted on, but I thought it would match the 2023-2024 amount. Is there a reason, and I guess I'm asking both you or Director Chair Cannavale, but where is that discrepancy coming from?
That number should reflect 3810 after the Senate's vote to last year's application. Sure. Why it says.
Is that then something that should be changed now because that's what the request was as of the Senate, or do we need to amend it?
That would need to be an amendment since these are not official SABC documents.
Okay.
Yep. Any further questions? Commissioner Roberson.
So this is more so general retreat. Do you have any evidence-based feedback to suggest that the retreats have been effective in bridging gaps between constituents from different agencies or theological beliefs or backgrounds?
So. This is a question, because I think that you're asking about retreats as well as conferences.
Well, funny enough, I was going to ask about how can those potentially merge as well if we're talking professional.
I think I do that has a lot of with our retreats, we do not use quantitative research on retreats. I think that we've largely used a lot of data based on sourcing models, so largely use surveys to try to like after event surveys to try to see student responses, and we try to use questionnaires beforehand to try to see what topics are most likely to receive feedback. And what we see a little bit of a difference is that our retreats are largely, or I would say that the character of each is the retreats have a bit of a more mindful character, whereas these conferences and professional development do take on more of those professional. To, like I said, communications out of the body, interconnecting it or past workshop. We like not have as much application for that line. Or how do I say this? Like, we might not have as strong in direct service to students, but we do see that indirect service through that improved efficiency of the body on the retreat sides. Then on the professional development side, we do have a little bit more concrete way to kind of assess how that benefits happening. We can point to specific initiatives that are being found by other campuses that we're bringing back. We can point to specific structures that we're bringing back to our campuses, and we can also point to specific contacts, new funding sources, new opportunities to expand our services, and in general, we use conference keep going. We use retreats to put the work to bed.
Regent Latour, if you could speak a little louder, that would be great.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bear?
My question is on the contingency. So what I'm seeing in this spreadsheet is contingency hasn't been used as of whenever this date was.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. Our contingency, did I say that we had used it? I meant to say that we were planning on using it for the Maverick readership line item. But I said that we had, that was a mistake.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, Commissioner Bear.
Okay. Do you think that contingency is necessary?
I think that we went so close to that cost that we almost set ourselves up for failure, not having contingency available to immediately have student government. And where we might have had the most value from contingency this year, we see that value in a few weeks. Still can find better value. Definitely to try to reduce the amount that we don't spend year to year. Think that we could reasonably meet all of our needs. 1,500.
Commissioner Pavlikar. So you talked about in your presentation and in the SJ narrative as well, that the general SJ body has kind of suffered from a lack of transparency with the students that it's meant to serve. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yes, so we've seen some transparency, especially speaking to our presence physically on campus. But we've seen also in terms of our ability to communicate different initiatives that are happening, like I said, our ability to advertise different resources or to market for different events coming up. We've seen that our ability to communicate with students in general has been markedly stunted by our lack of communication with students. And this is, and when I say lack of transparency, I don't mean out of malicious intent. I mean a lack of transparency out of
Follow up, you also just said, like in your own words, that SG has not been well invested in the partnership with the student body. So what efforts do you have like in mind that would amend that relationship?
I do appreciate the chance to amend that statement. Then I'm speaking more towards our historical use of advertising methods. We haven't where that volume we have tried to find new ways to really challenge that gap between us and students. So taking the example of our social media, we've tried to find new strategies to improve student engagement, especially in the case of just knowing what happens night to night on our Senates. So we've introduced weekly Senate recaps. Fallen a little bit behind on that, but that's a program that we're still pretty in favor of. We've seen pretty good feedback from, as well as we've also tried to hold significant events that are more tailored to outreach, like we said. So really intentionally trying to allow students to have an open forum to speak to their different representatives and to their campus as a whole through our town halls. Reinvesting in our Meet Your Senator events to allow students to speak to their representatives, and just in general holding our events in a way that allows students to create community with their representatives.
Commissioner Pavlikar, similarly with the absorption of the agencies this year being presented with student government, makes up the majority of the student fee. So what areas of the budget do you feel like are more essential to the student population versus which do you feel like are more willing to sacrifice?
In reference to the overall budget?
Yeah, I would say if you want to split it up by agencies as well, that's okay.
In speaking of the ones that I think that used towards the students, I do massively love our student legal services line. I think that it has been an absolutely revolutionary program, and we've seen that other campuses have pretty consistently reached out to us and Jacob to try to see how we went about it. We just started trying to really restructure how we approach conferences, retreats, and workshops and the like. We really think that our new approach allows students to gain the most from it. And I do think that in kind of fitting that mindset of throwing through opinions, allowing next year to serve as a to serve as a training ground or like proving ground for those new initiatives may see a lot of value. Our first year leadership council, I think that students entering student government have a significantly more difficult time trying to understand the operations of the body, interact and compete for funding, and in general have the same impact for students as members who have more experience inside the body. And I think that this line, in addition to that FLC project, allows those FLC commissioners to, similarly to our retreat structures, work on interconnectedness. Readership in our math write programs, so especially those university needed contracts, those are largely built out of the case of math readership, especially student need or student demand. So as supplies are used, costs are incurred more, and I think that it feels only fair to the students to allow them to spend the amount that they see in response to their usage. I think that as student government tries to find new ways, as we on campus try to find new ways to address our parking challenges, address our transportation challenges, introducing the Heartland B-Cycle program alongside Mavericks Ride expands students' ability to traverse the campus and their ability to their classes, needs, and in general move around. I think that there's a significant number of benefits of that. Their insurance expenses is a line that I will come back to. I do think that that is one that could feasibly use. Fees and subscriptions, I think that's a line that investing here reduces the cost of significantly other lines. So I think that it's one of the to protect, as well as our accountant retainer. I like to say I fear no man but the IRS. I'm not one to challenge. So moving more to the lines that we might have more flow in. So we do have the case of the insurance expenses, like I said. In past years, I've seen costs go up to roughly 16 to 17,000, I think. While we do not, while we've not hit that amount, just the expectation of significantly more events happening on campus next year leads us to believe that an increase of at least a decrease of at least 5,000 would be decrease up to 5,000 would be an appropriate amount to meet the needs of student organizations. With the case of our programming, as we are investing into our public relations and outreach line, that does free up some more space for what is functionally also programming. That may allow us to focus on just without the same thought of issue. That professional development. We've also seen that as this is a bit of a test next year, as we are trying to see how we can make best use of this, may not be most prudent of us to fully post 2,500. The question the issue comes that as less students go, we see that like that it's markedly drop off. Conferences are about $300 a student. So for our the issue we see largely is that that's fair. As we a lot of cases, we've seen pretty consistently that cost of Sodexo and catering events has been a significant source of expense. It's really pushed, funded up increases. These are specific questions.
Any further questions? Commissioner Bear?
I have a question for Director Miller. So as I'm looking at the budget for this current year, it seems you have used about $5,700 and you were allocated 17,000. And then you're asking this next year without the 51 is about 25,500. What percentage of that do you feel that you're going to use?
Okay, sorry, can you repeat those numbers one more time?
So I mean, my biggest question is, so from the allocated budget, so from the 25,500 that you're gonna be requesting,
Yes.
once you subtract the 51 that we discussed earlier, will you use all of that?
Yes. The way that will kind of get broken is, and I can pull up what our line items kind of look like for that. So it will be about 10,000 for parenting resources. So usually what we see throughout the year is we get typically around 80 to 100 orders in a fiscal year for parents. Right now, those are capped at $75 every 2 weeks. I've noticed a lot with parents, we're not able to fulfill all of their requests, so I would like for our next director and board to be able to up that to $100 per request every 2 weeks. So that's the reasoning for that 10,000 in parenting. For sexual health resources, it'll be about $2,000. And the justification for that is really with pregnancy tests, and any like packaging materials that go with it, as well as cups for people to urinate in for a pregnancy test. Right now, we're using Clearblue, digital and rapid pregnancy tests. Those are typically what students like the most. We've been able to suffice with strips. We get a cheaper cost, but sometimes like I'll even hand it to a student, they're like, can I have the other kind? And then we had initially requested 37,000 in our menstrual health line item, so subtract 25,500 from that. All of that will be used for sure, on, all different types of products. And, if we do happen to get a partnership with Access Period, I would love to have more than, some money remaining at the end of the fiscal year. But again, it's very up in the air.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bear?
I have a question for Hakeem. So have you looked at possibly pulling from reserves like MavPro has?
Yes, so we found that the issue that student legal services, frauds are so the issue with the reserves then, really difficult process of pulling funding from our reserves. So there's a unique set of criteria you have to reach to be able to access funds from the reserves. And in the case of the specific containers that we have access to that not drop down by that certain legal services amount, we would be falling under the 1 year threshold. I got you. I got it. Thank you. It's just, yeah, there's no reason.
Any further questions? Commissioner Roberson?
Math Ride program, is that set in stone, like the partnership with the $5 per student? We need to indicate that. I see say like $10-15 per student to make sure that overhead is a little bit lower. Especially for students say who access to it.
Because I want to say this was reviewed by student life and well-being, housing, parking services for the Mav right side. So the simple, as well as student government and metro. And RBD section. So it's I do not think that it is like a number can be changed. We have 1 minute.
So with the new kind of format, with you presenting on behalf of the agencies, I know you're not gonna have like all of the agency members, but as like its chief president, do you feel that all the agencies are being good stewards of student money, like with this proposal?
With this proposal, I think that this proposal is setting up the agencies to be in the best position possible to operate with the most student, operate with the most student support. I think that where in the past we've found difficulties due to
That is the end of the questioning period. Thank you, Regent Sartoro. Okay, we are reaching the end of the night. So I'm seeking, oh, sorry, this is. Okay, reaching the chairperson's report. I just wanted to give a quick reminder to all the commissioners that all the materials are in that shared drive. Additionally, please also remember there are documents for each of the organizations. So if there's any questions you did not want to ask now or that you didn't get a chance to ask, please put them in there and I will make sure to let all the organizations know to go and check that so they can answer all of those. Another thing, there were some edits that I made on the overall workbook for the fee allocation, so that number should have changed a little bit. So I would greatly appreciate if everyone could also take a look at that. But yeah, that's about it. So I'm seeking a motion to adjourn the meeting. Commissioner Hirschbaum Harding, seconded by Commissioner Bear. We are now entering a period of discussion.
I don't know what I need to say, but I just have a quick question.
Yes,
for
sorry.
documents.
Oh, yeah.
If we're asking questions, is there on there, instruction for when we need to have those questions on there, and then when they will be answering them for us to be able to review it?
It's currently like a working doc, so like every edit you make, all of the organizations can see. I would say, is everyone okay with Thursday being that hard deadline, so it gives them a couple days to answer? So Thursday, yep. Any other questions regarding that? Okay, sweet. Seeing no further discussion, we will move into a period of voting. All those in favor? adjourning the meeting, sorry. 12. In the opinion of the chair, the motion carries. Thank you guys for all coming today. Thank you to everyone on Zoom like that.